Myself 20 minutes to address you. I got 26 seconds left. I think we have a few more minutes. I don't know if there are questions in the audience, things you'd like to know more about, questions you have for me, or maybe you have a question.
Any questions specifically from Mr. Richard Moran? I think it's a very good opportunity to have the managing director, and there's one, yes. Let me just give you the mic.
And don't hesitate to be candid in your questions.
Yeah, Mr. Richard, I'm Hanif Idris. The 3 points which you mentioned, 3 priorities, are really encouraging. My query is that with the trend of companies not getting listed, how would these 3 priorities bring success to PSX? Because the number of listed companies has remained more or less quite stagnant over the years. So, promoting the culture of listing, wouldn't that be in your priorities?
Yes. Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to maybe dig down a little deeper into what we're doing. First, as we succeed in bringing more investors to buy shares listed on Pakistan Stock Exchange, the companies you work with, simple supply and demand. As the demand from investor increases, it will push up the price of companies, the stock of the companies listed on the Pakistan Stock Exchange. And as the price goes up, you're all CFOs. You occasionally make that decision. Do we finance through bank financing? Do we issue debt? Or do we go to the stock market to get, and one of the factors in your decision is what price am I getting on the stock market? Today, the average price-earnings ratio for a company listed on the Pakistan Stock Exchange is around 9. Well, it's probably migrated towards closer to 10 because we're now at 46,000. And don't ask me where it's going next year. I don't know. But we will continue. So as the price-earnings ratio goes from 9 to 10 to, for example, across the border in India, the average price-earnings ratio is 12. The average price-earnings ratio in emerging markets is 16. So as the price goes up, it becomes increasingly attractive for companies to consider listing on the stock market as a way to finance their development. So the demand partly will come from that. The second thing, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to hire a head of business development, marketing and business development. One of his direct reports will be the head of corporate services. So we'll have a dedicated team at PSX whose job it will be to, on the one hand, provide value-added services to companies listed. So we'll make it more attractive to companies to come because they'll get more services from PSX. But they'll also be very active, talking to you CFOs, talking to your CEOs, and educating you and increasing your awareness of the advantages of listing on PSX. So it will be both the demand coming because you'll see it as more attractive, and we at PSX will be very actively talking to all of you across Pakistan in an effort to convince you of the advantages of coming to PSX to list. Yeah.
Mr. Richard, this is Farooq Sheikh. I'm running a consulting firm called Babel Fish Consultant, and I work with different organizations. In the initial part of your presentation, you mentioned that you would like to encourage the people from the middle class to invest in the stock exchange. But unfortunately, the current practices are like the insider trading. The confidence in the stock exchange by the middle class investors is very low. So I would like you to enlighten us that what should be done. And I'm glad to know that you are hiring a marketing person to actually effectively market the stock exchange, because I'm from the same fraternity. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. It's a very important, sensitive, and relevant question. I think we need to separate 2 things. We need to separate perception from reality, and we need to separate the past from the present and the future. So, in the past, I wasn't here, but from what I hear, it seems reasonable that yes, there had been instances of market manipulation. That might have been the case in the past. But things have already changed a great deal at PSX. The number of brokers in Pakistan has gone from 400 after the merger of the 3 exchanges to 230 today. And it's not an objective of PSX or CCP to see that number to continue to go down, but the number is likely to continue to go down because it's becoming increasingly onerous for a stockbroker to remain in business in Pakistan. Capital requirements are higher, proficiency requirements are higher, the regulator is more active, and the regulator is reorganizing itself. As I said earlier, a very, very strategic initiative, joint initiative of PSX, SCCP, as well as other stakeholders, NCCP, CDC, and PMEX. We are creating this strong, competent, independent policeman of brokers, something that has never existed in Pakistan, I'll be honest. We, PSX, have a regulatory division. As a stock exchange, we have historically run our own regulatory division. Okay? There's an inherent conflict of interest in doing that because brokers are our owners, they are our clients. So human nature being what it is, it's always difficult for a stock exchange to regulate brokers. That's a conclusion that all countries, all over the world, have come to, and they have all implemented the same solution. Again, the solution is to take the regulatory part out of the stock exchange and put it into a separate entity, completely independent from the exchange, okay? So the past was one where Pakistan was ill-equipped to deal with these instances of market manipulation, insider trading. The future is very, very, very different. Okay? Second thing we also need, and that will become increasingly relevant, we need to separate perception from reality. I think that perception may stay for a long time. It may no longer fit the reality. I think we are implementing the measures to have a more fairness and more integrity in the market. I think it will take a while for the perception to change, but we will get there. And again, one thing, for the middle class Pakistani, buying my ETF and in one transaction, buying the 30 stocks that constitute the KSE 30, I would submit to you that whether or not there is insider trading is irrelevant. It's relevant to the person trading in and out of the market daily. But for the average investor who puts $1 million in KSE 30 today and adds, I don't know, 100,000 a month to that, I don't know what the number would be, 50,000 a month that he would save, or 20,000 a month, or 10,000 a month that he would. You know, these issues of market, if there are instances of market manipulation, it's irrelevant. Today, KSC is at 46,000. In 10 years, it will probably be at 150,000. In the meantime, he will have received a dividend of 4 or 5% a year. I think that's the message. But we will address issues of insider trading and manipulation. Yeah? In fact, no, we will not address. We are addressing them.
Hi, Richard. My name is Sabah Sodar. I'm a member of ICAP. You just mentioned that soon the electronic traded funds will be launched in Pakistan Stock Exchange.
Exchange traded funds.
Yeah, the exchange traded funds. Yeah. So can you please enlighten us on the potential implications on the mutual funds industry in Pakistan?
The implications for the finance industry?
No, the mutual funds industry. The mutual funds
Mutual funds industry. Well, another very relevant question. That's the world over. the exchange traded fund, which in fact, I'm a Canadian, I must say this. The first exchange traded fund listed anywhere in the world was in Canada at the Toronto Stock Exchange. But the Canadians did not invent the exchange traded fund. And this is an interesting story. The concept of the exchange traded fund was first thought of by a regulator. The SEC in the US saw the exchange traded fund as a solution to the 1987 crash, which was caused by electronic trading. But anyway, so it has grown very slowly, but now the exchange traded funds is by very far, the fastest growing financial product in the world. For a simple reason, it is the best technology. It is a far better technology than stock picking. You know, I use the term technology loosely when I talk about ETFs, but it's just a better way to invest. And so it has started to transform the finance industry all over the world. And it will do the same thing in Pakistan. Except that in Pakistan, it's a bit like my analogy with the African phone market. The mutual fund industry is still underdeveloped in Pakistan, like the capital market more generally. So I think there will be less resistance from market players in Pakistan to get into exchange-traded funds. You know, because if you look at what's happening elsewhere, the mutual fund industry is reluctantly getting involved in ETFs because their profit margin on an ETF is a tiny fraction of their profit margin on a mutual fund. Okay? In Pakistan, because mutual funds are underdeveloped, we see less resistance to the development of ETFs. In fact, the major mutual fund players in Pakistan are our partners in developing the exchange-traded fund because they, like me, they understand that this is the product that will considerably increase our penetration, to talk in marketing terms, increase our penetration of the Pakistan middle-class market. So I think it will help the development of Pakistan finance industry more than transform it because it's too small yet to be transformed. I think it will be the instrument of the development of the finance industry. I'd be remiss if I didn't say one thing fundamental about the finance industry. I tell everybody I meet, I told SECP, I told my board, I tell the brokers, it is financially impossible for the Pakistan brokerage industry to run a profitable business model by charging trading commission. Trading commissions are under considerable pressure in Pakistan and everywhere around the world for a simple reason. The cost of executing a transaction on the exchange is going down due to technology, due to regulatory changes. You're all finance professionals. You know that microeconomics tells us that the market price of a good, long term, will converge to its cost of production. So if the cost of executing a transaction on the exchange goes to zero, the commission, stock trading commission, will tend to zero. And if you don't believe me, look at developed markets in Canada, in the US, in a number of different markets in Europe and elsewhere. Stock trading commissions are zero. So my message to the finance industry is that if you're looking to build yourself a career in finance, don't think brokerage, think advice. What we need in order to bring middle-class Pakistanis, convince them to invest on the stock market is not stock brokerage, it's investment advice. You know, he's I don't know, a DGM working in a company, knows nothing about finance. He needs financial advice. 40 million Pakistanis are in great need of financial advice, and my guess is that they will be willing to pay for it. The industry, and I think the industry has already started to transform and move into that direction. The industry needs to think in terms of providing financial advice and charging for it, as opposed to executing trades on the stock market. It's it's certainly not a business model that 230 brokers in Pakistan can make money with. That said, if we want for that to happen in Pakistan, we need to break the silos. I think the regulator, and I'm lobbying the regulator, to break the silos between stockbrokers, investment advisors, and asset management companies. Those silos need to be broken. And you should be allowed to have the three activities under one roof. Whoops. Yeah. It's a long-winded answer to your question. I think we have a question at the back. And while we wait, investment advice, just to clarify my thought on that, investment advice is a kind to financial planning. When I say investment, that 40 million Pakistanis need investment advice, understand that what I mean to say is that they need financial planning. How do I finance the purchase of my house? How do I finance my kids' education? How do I finance my retirement? That's their question. That's the relevant question for them. Asset management and brokerage is ancillary to that. The fundamental question for them is, I have objectives. How do I meet them? And please, financial advisors, accompany me in reaching those objectives. Asset management and brokerage, again, in my mind, is ancillary to that. Yes.
Yeah, hi Richards. My name is Shakil. I am a cost and management accountant. My question is that according to statistics I read somewhere in October 2017, the number of total investors in the stock exchange, Pakistan Stock Exchange, was around 500K out of 200 million population. What steps PSX is taking to encourage the small investors' inclusion in the PSX, and what measures can be taken for the protection of small investors? Thank you.
Did you miss the first 20 minutes of my presentation? Yeah. Sorry, no disrespect intended. Again, the three things. Before anybody invests, their first question is my capital safe? Am I entrusting my capital to somebody who's trustworthy? So, number one priority, investor protection. Number two, simple, accessible, easy to understand investment vehicle. That's the exchange traded fund. And third, you'll open your account and manage your account using this. Everybody, I mean, at least the 40 million Pakistanis we believe form our target market, they have access to this. So that's how you do it. As I came here, everybody was talking about stock options and futures, and we need more leverage products and all that. Let me be clear. The 250,000 investors we have at PSX tend to be more active investors. They're people who speculate in the market. We like them. And if we can get another 250,000 of them, I'll be happy. But even if we do get 250,000 more speculators on our market, it won't transform our capital market. What will transform our capital market is 2.5 million middle-class Pakistanis investing their 20 trillion rupees on PSX. Because by the numbers I have indicate to me that there's 20 trillion rupees in wealth accumulated that's not invested on PSX. If we get 1/3 of that to come to PSX, we double the market cap of our listed companies. We instantly bring the price-earnings ratio from 10 to 16. And then your answer your question is answered. I don't know if I'm being clear. Investor protection, investment products, and easier access to the market. Streamlined access to the market. I would encourage you to, for those of you who want to know what the future looks like, Google robo-advisor. Google that. As you leave this conference, go to Google and Google robo-advisor if you want to know what the future of financial services looks like. That's it. We're 10 minutes over budget. Thank you very much.
Richard, thank you so much for, I think, very clear thoughts in terms of what needs to happen at the Pakistan Stock Exchange. And I think there's a huge amount of liquidity that's still out there. So there's 15 trillion of domestic debt that is out there. And all of us over here would be aware that historically the saving schemes for Pakistanis have been what I call special saving certificates and defense saving certificates, which are bought out of the national saving schemes, which is where the average Pakistani puts its money in. And with 100 million SIM cards, like I mentioned earlier, there are just 20 million bank accounts and 250,000 investors in the stock market. So if something like an exchange traded fund were to come in where you could actually essentially get the return on the index, it would probably be a fantastic product. So good luck with all of that, and we hope that there'll be some technical releases coming the ICAP's way in terms of how these products need to be valued and reported. And we're more than glad to participate and contribute to that. But thank you so much for your thoughts. I think if you can make this happen, Pakistan will remember you for a very long time. Thank you. Can I please request Ms. Hina Osmani to come on stage in order to present a memento to Mr. Richard Morris. Thank you. I'd also like to request Ms. Hina Osmani, I think she would like to make an announcement specifically. Yes.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Khalil. Thank you, PIB committee. Arif, thank you very much for giving